the day, and that was Chun-Li. We know him for his Windwalker play, but here instead he's looking to slay on his warrior. Let's see if he can bring the pain. I think the WLS, if Channel is playing Affliction, is actually a decent setup into this. It's very difficult as a Shadow Priest to get Vampiric Touch cast off, as all three members can interrupt you, Grounding Totem, there's stuns, and there's just a warrior in your face, so it's probably not going to be a great time as a Shadow Priest. I like this composition from Super Frogs.
Yeah, it definitely could work out. WizK, I think he's up for the challenge. We'll have to see, positioning himself in the middle of the map right now, looking for those VT casts, looking for those dots. Peekaboo on the Assassination row is going to be super effective against this Resto Shaman. Full blind out onto Cubsy, looking for, like, it's not going to get sap. Peekaboo was looking for the sap, but wasn't able to find it. Cubsy gates away.
All right, and it looks like Channel tried to use a succubus at some point during this game, but maybe Cubsy preemptively, or maybe Absurge preemptively shapeshifted. We see lots of damage towards Chun-Li. A trinket and die by the sword has been forced out in exchange for Peekaboo's Vendetta, which is a great start for Peekaboo. Now he's making a swap to Cubsy with a Shadow Step kick, interrupting that heal. Cubsy dropping down the healing Tide Totem. Absturge making an offensive play as WizK, Peekaboo, and Absturge close in on the Super Frogs.
Yeah, Chun-Li's going to be pushing in, looking for damage here, reconnecting over onto WizK, interrupting him right now, but I think Chun-Li will be that pressure point once again. I think if Absturge can get off those offensive purges and they can get that Vendetta, it's not going to have the die by the sword available. Kidney shot now onto Cubsy. Peekaboo spreading out his pressure all over the place, looking to rot down all three members of Super Frogs. Cubsy gets away, so Peekaboo's going to be turning his attention once again to Chanimals and Chun-Li.
All right, Chun-Li going to be the primary target. Stormbolt, though, onto WizK, trying to get that dispersion force, but not ultimately finding it. We see a preemptive disarm onto Peekaboo, trying to prevent a kidney shot. Cubsy, in the meantime, was sitting through a silence, so his whole team is starting to fall behind. Nice kidney shot there on the sharpened blade from Peekaboo, trying to slow down the pressure towards WizK. WizK going for a Master Spell and actually soaking up some unstable afflictions and taking quite a bit of damage as a result. Chun-Li trying to capitalize on that, maybe execute out a kill, but Absurge denies it with an Earthen Shield Totem. WizK now restabilizes. Mana completely in favor of Cubsy. Really, right now, the only thing that's going badly for Super Frogs is that Chun-Li doesn't have a trinket, so he can't get out of his stun. He does not have die by the sword to reduce damage, so this could be the moment where he ultimately goes down. Void form activated. Triple fear from Chun-Li. What does he have left to keep himself going? Cubsy needs to try and get out a healing wave. Absurge actually jumped in to try and wind shear the heal. Cubsy fake casted it. That fake cast, I think, might be the only reason that Chun-Li is alive right now.
Yeah, Peekaboo held onto his Vendetta as well. WizK getting low though, doesn't want to die with a thing. And he didn't use the Disperse or the Void Shifted Spirit Link as well. Super Frogs.
I mean, this was so nice. Chun-Li managing to catch a few heals off of that and force Absturge's trinket. And then here he manages to kick up WizK. Actually, WizK faking there. And then Chun-Li managing to get that big sharpened blade up. And then here into execute range, big crit as well. And I mean, WizK had everything available there. Disperse. They still had the Spirit Link Totem. Void.
Big hit there. It was thick with 8 C's. Absolutely nutty stuff that comes out there. And if you're WizK, he's someone that has just been able to perfectly use those defensive cooldowns, maybe not expecting that damage. We don't expect him to be caught off guard here again. Will Chun-Li be able to bring the pressure and allow Super Frogs to go up 2-0, or will the move even the scale?
I'm going to say that was a bit of just a lucky kill for the Super Frogs, and they're going to need to step up their game here because the pressure was almost entirely in favor of the move. I mean, Chun-Li was at 10% for most of this game, so let's see if Super Frogs can keep up the momentum that they've got from that first game win.
Yeah, Chun-Li's charging in, found his target right away. There's a Stormbolt. WizK trinkets out, so already opting to use that trinket. We see this from WizK quite often. He likes to get aggressive, doesn't want to sit back, let his dots not go up, so there we go. There's the VTs, there's the Master Spells, and some of the UAs coming in. But you can see Peekaboo's getting controlled quite nicely there by Chanimals, using that Succubus. There's a sap over onto Cubsy as well. As Peekaboo went for that blind, the Cubsy really didn't have to use much.
I mean, Chanimal just shut Peekaboo down. He basically just seduced Peekaboo with the Succubus, held him in place, denied any sort of setup and follow-up crowd control. It was great. Nice demon play from Chanimal there. Chun-Li still the primary target. As I said in the first game, he was it looked almost so fragile in the first game, so I'm curious to see if Peekaboo and WizK can keep up that pressure on Chun-Li. Peekaboo shadow stepping up to Chanimal, looking to spread some of his pressure out. Cubsy trying to dispel off the Vampiric Touches. Well-timed pummel to deny the reapplication from Chun-Li. Sharpened Blade battle stance. Let's see if Peekaboo tries to punish this battle stance from Chun-Li. He is getting feared away. Absturge is moving up a little bit curiously. Chun-Li's actually just going to switch his attention to him, try and spread out as much damage as possible. Mana is in favor of Cubsy, and I believe the Warrior Warlock should be doing a bit more sustained damage than the Shadow Priest just because there's so many interrupts for the Shadow Priest. WizK jumping into Void form. Vendetta available. Chun-Li needs to be careful. They're both right on top of him. Cubsy on the silence. There could be a kidney shot. Chun-Li uses Intimidating Shot right before it. Kidney shot lands. Trinket, die by the sword. A trinket overlap from the side of Super Frogs. That's going to be a big opening moving forward for the move.
Yeah, this is super scary for Super Frogs. Frogs right now. Cubsy getting low as well. Chun-Li still rotting down. Earthen Shield Totem gets committed. Cubsy gets interrupted though. Might have to actually drop out the Spirit Link Totem. That would be a disaster. Nice fear coming in from WizK, keeping up his pressure quite nicely. Chanimals needs to make something happen, but you can see Abster's position so far away. Not going to be in any crowd control just yet, but a nice spell lock comes in, allowing the Super Frogs to start getting some momentum onto WizK.
I mean, mana is in favor of Cubsy, which is a significant advantage. Abster's trying to get ahead of the dots that Chanimal is dishing out with that Dispel, but taking quite a big hit as you Dispel Unstable Affliction. It does damage to you and silences you, so it's a pretty risky decision as a healer. Abster's in a good position to get away with it. We see a swap onto Cubsy from Peekaboo. WizK trying to support in that ever so deadly Void from a silence out of the stun with that cool overlap earlier with the double trinket. Could be costly. Cubsy is trying to be greedy and hold on to it. We see Chun-Li gating, but Peekaboo in hot pursuit, shadow stepping, both members dangerously low. WizK's Void form though just ran out. They might not have enough. They might not have enough. There's the Spirit Link Totem available, but a full blind with no trinket, and that trinket overlap earlier I think is ultimately going to cost the Super Frogs the game. Peekaboo follows it up with the sap. Of course he does. It's Peekaboo. There's the cheap shot holding Chun-Li in place. Precision kill coming out here with a Psychic Scream to chain it all together. The move, strike back.
All right, well, I had promised a bunch of viewers that we would talk about it, and now seems like
they can kind of drag on the game to a point where they can win later on.
All tied up, but that changes on Ruins of Lordaeron. The team that wins this finds themselves on match point in the upper portion of the bracket.
Yep, the move is looking to set up that damage onto Chun-Li once again. Chun-Li is going to be sitting on WizK, but WizK does something very intelligent. He doesn't really charge in to get the damage onto Cubsy and get the damage onto Chanimals. He just tries to butter up Chun-Li, so Peekaboo can get this crowd control. There's the full blind. Now Chun-Li could be in some trouble, but a nice double stun coming in from Chanimals. Peekaboo lands the full sap onto Cubsy, and this is where the move can start to find some pressure. Abster's in a position to land the DR Hex, and out of that Hex, there's going to be a fear. Into a silence, but a nice charge coming in from Chun-Li, and a nice fear breaks up that CC chain. Finally, Cubsy can get some heals, and as I say that, WizK commits his silence. But Chun-Li's going to rot down a little bit lower.
Yep, Chun-Li is still the primary target here as Cubsy goes into a kidney shot, pre-astral shift. That will allow him to survive this stun, but it means Peekaboo can use Vendetta later on. Peekaboo getting punished for that aggressive trinket earlier on to secure a sap, caught into a Stormbolt and had to trade out his entire defensive arsenal. That was a great punish from Chun-Li onto Peekaboo, realizing they overextended onto his healer and switching to him. WizK now the target again, trying to shut down those Vampiric Touches that we see a Wind Shear secured. Vampiric Touches being casted, another swap from Peekaboo. This is the Vendetta attempt. Cubsy immediately trinketing, realizing that pre-astral shift earlier is now an opening to die here, denies it with the trinket.
Yeah, this is a key moment though. Peekaboo will have his blind coming up sometime, and Cubsy won't have a trinket for it. They can force anything from Chun-Li before that time. They can definitely close out the game with that blind zap combo like we saw in the last one. Peekaboo running over, continuing the damage onto Cubsy with a full kidney shot. WizK, does he have any damage? Looking like he's going to be rotting everyone down. Chun-Li still getting low. Cubsy really struggling in this moment. Might actually have to drop out his Spirit Link Totem, but he gets kicked immediately. Cubsy uses his Hellstone to keep himself alive. That's Ascendance as well, so he should be able to top off his team, but after that, man, it's going to be scary.
Yeah, it was a very scary moment. Another swap to Peekaboo. They got the trinket earlier aggressively, and then and the defensive cooldowns later on, so Peekaboo isn't going to overextend. He's just going to retreat back and attack Chanimal next to Absterge. Now the momentum is swinging in favor of Super Frogs as Chanimal is just letting the damage go everywhere, down to 70% on all three members. WizK in Void form, trying to capitalize with this. Cubsy and Chun-Li very far apart, which means Peekaboo, it'll be obvious if he wants to make a swap to Cubsy if Chun-Li can position further away. A preemptive disarm and Peekaboo trying to deny the kidney shot. We see Sharpened Blade used there, but not too much. There's the blind attempt. This is what Peekaboo has been waiting for. A preemptive dive by the sword from Chun-Li before the stun lock, before the sap was even landed. That dive by the sword might have been just a couple seconds too early if they can keep the crowd control chain going. Absterge snags in a Hex. WizK is pushing forward. They need to keep this chain going on Cubsy. They need the Psychic Scream, but WizK is snared up by the hamstring of Chun-Li. He can't catch up. Cubsy with great kiting to avoid that, but they go for the silence. I don't think they're going to find the Scream, though. The dive by the sword that was used preemptively, though, could be punished. Nice spell reflect.
Oh, Vendetta!
Enough. Vendetta pop. Psychic Scream secured. The commanding shout buys Chun-Li a couple more seconds. Chun-Li's hanging on. All they have to do is survive this. They've got Spirit Link Totem. I'm surprised that they don't just trade it out. Chun-Li's just going to duck into the Earthen Shield Totem, soak up some of the damage, and then turn the heat up. Now it's Super Frog's turn to attack.
Yeah, WizK goes into the Dispersion. Doesn't want to go down without using that once again. Now Cubsy into the kidney shot. He has the trinket available. Peekaboo doesn't have the damage to force it out, though, so Cubsy should be fine. Nice interrupt coming in from Peekaboo once again as he reconnects to his target. Cubsy dispels himself, realizing there's no interrupts. He wants all of those Shadow Priest dots to be off. I think that was a very intelligent play. Now Cubsy's going to be able to easily top himself off and just be able to line of sight WizK. And WizK can't get those dots up. It's not going to be that scary. Same can't be said for Peekaboo, though, who's caught into the full Stormbolt. Big pressure coming out, but he used the evasion preemptively, so he's going to be okay after that Stormbolt fades.
All right, Vendetta coming off cooldown shortly. Chun-Li with no defensive cooldowns. Chun-Li needs to sit in defensive stance and be ready for that attack. We see a silence on Cubsy and maybe some damage on Chanimal. He could be an exposed target as well as Peekaboo makes another swap. Critical swap. Chanimal in trouble. Cubsy trying to pick him back up. WizK right on top of Cubsy for a Psychic Scream as well, I would believe. Shortly, Absterge is moving on top of Cubsy as the move, Dogpile onto the healer to try and crowd control him. Everyone is on top of Cubsy. This is going to get stressful for him as his team is dipping low. He tries to jump away from that situation. Chun-Li now makes a swap to Absterge to punish this aggressive push. Absterge's mana is on the clock. He's almost completely tapped. If the move can't find an opportunity soon, they're going to be going down.
Yeah, WizK is going to be in a little trouble, but everyone from Super Frogs is rotting down. There's the trinket from Cubsy. Kidney shot on that immediately as Peekaboo looks to want to reconnect over onto Chanimals. There's a full hex. Very nicely done by Absterge. Chanimals in a lot of trouble. No unending resolve. Uses his Hellstone and tops himself off. It's a good thing he had that available. Now Cubsy into the sap. But no more crowd control. There's the silence. And still in crowd control, Chun-Li getting low as well as Vendetta is committed by Peekaboo. The Moo has pressure all over the place.
Yeah, but I mean, Cubsy has Ascendance. He could just press that and top his whole team. It's almost a throwaway, I think, at this point, not to do it. Absterge is completely tapped on mana. Chanimals is almost about to go down. They have to kill Chanimal in this next couple of seconds. A full hex from Absterge is going to punish the team of Super Frogs and find the kill. They were maybe a minute away from victory. Look at Absterge's mana. It's nothing.
He's doing damage that has never existed inside of the World of Warcraft. This team is looking really good, and like you said, Zico, together they are making opportunities.
Yeah, and this right here is one of those opportunities because you see Cubsy has triggered out of the blind. Look at Absterge dropping that grounding totem into that full hex right there, and that is essentially what secures the kill there. It's just such good teamwork between that rogue and...
It's not about the comp. It's about getting outplayed here. Tolvaron Arena, the move, one game away from making it to another grand final.
This map focuses heavily on defensive playstyle, which is a great selection by the Super Frogs. The WLS can have a lot of space to kite away and avoid damage. It'll be difficult for the Shadow Priest to keep up, and as well as the Assassination Rogue. So I'm very curious to see if Super Frogs can keep up their momentum.
Well, I think just the number one thing is it's going to be much more difficult for Absterge to push in and get those Hex out of the kidney shot just because of how much distance there is. And like Zico was saying, that's really where they got most of their moments of pressure from. Peekaboo going to be moving in, lands the sap over onto Chun-Li, eroding up Chanimals. Looks like Chun-Li is going to be the target of choice very early on. Peekaboo likes to get his bleeds up on Chun-Li, and then he can go over, put the kidney shot onto Cubsy, and that's where they can start finding some damage.
Looks like Peekaboo actually wants to go after Chanimal a little bit this game. Chanimal kiting him quite effectively with that portal and Infernal Stun. Peekaboo managed to sneak in a Hex, though, right at the last second of that blind. Now a bunch of damage flying towards Chanimal. He trinkets out, trying to duck out of line of sight of WizK. Another ward activated as well. He can gate. He's going to gate across the map. Cubsy as well during that silence. It's good teamwork between Chanimal and Cubsy. Chanimal is probably one of the most difficult Warlocks to just kill in this game, period. Peekaboo now realizing that, switching to Chun-Li instead. A bit more stationary target on that warrior. Now Peekaboo is getting storm-bolted away, though, as Chun-Li is trying to peel for himself a disarm out of the stun, buying more time for Cubsy to restabilize. Peekaboo, WizK, and Absterge, though, they are not afraid of the Super Frogs. They're just constantly pushing towards Cubsy.
Yeah, they need to find that pressure. They need to find that crowd control if they want to get out a win. Like we said, Super Frogs should have the damage advantage in this matchup, potentially. Peekaboo is going to be charging in, looking for the kidney shot onto Cubsy as Chun-Li rots down lower and lower. This is what's so scary. Look at Chun-Li having such a difficult time landing on a WizK, finally able to find some damage, but Peekaboo is going to be committing a lot over on Cubsy here. Stormbolt onto Absterge. See, Chun-Li wants to get some damage rolling all over the place and actually force out Absterge's trinket, which is huge.
Yeah, definitely. Now with an intimidating shot later on, maybe they can set up for a burst kill on WizK or Peekaboo. Chun-Li still taking a ton of damage as WizK is basically 1v1ing Chun-Li and winning heavily in this 1v1. Peekaboo's trying to go after Cubsy, harassing both targets at low HP. Of course, you can only have Earth Shield on one, which is making this so difficult for Cubsy to predict who he needs Earth Shield on. Right now, it needs to be Chun-Li, and I believe Earth and Shield Totem was preempted from Absterge to allow WizK to stay aggressive. Cubsy's trying to get ahead of the dots by dispelling them. Peekaboo looks like he's really eager to make a swap or potentially a blind very soon. Chun-Li just taking so much damage that he has to die by the sword, even with no crowd control onto the healer. Peekaboo just immediately swapping onto Cubsy, now popping that Vendetta immediately. Cubsy has the cooldowns to easily survive this, but he uses Earth and Shield Totem on himself. And Chun-Li is now exposed. Chun-Li tries to retreat back into the totem and be protected. Absterge is right on top of both members, maybe looking for a cheeky Hex here shortly, but this is looking so difficult for Cubsy to handle.
He gets interrupted there by Absterge into a silence. Chun-Li still rotting down low. Now there's a full blind. If Cubsy trinkets out, this is exactly what Peekaboo wants. Now Cubsy is susceptible to the full kidney shot with the Vendetta. Garot's going to go onto Cubsy. Garot's going to go onto Chun-Li. Peekaboo spreading his damage all over the place. Chun-Li doing what he can with the disarm over onto Peekaboo. Peekaboo reconnects over to Cubsy. Cubsy really doesn't have too much. No trinket. The only thing that will keep him alive is that Spiritling Totem. But this is looking so scary for Super Frogs.
Yeah, I mean, Cubsy is just constantly below 50% HP with no cooldowns. Chun-Li as well with no cooldowns. WizK is just dominating this 1v1 against Chun-Li throughout this game, holding him at almost in Shadow Word death range. Shanimal looking for a succubus play here. I believe it may have gotten wind-sheared and shut down though by Upsurge. Chun-Li trying to set up a swap, but he's dipping low. Cubsy manages to sneak the Spiritling Totem in right before that silence, but Chun-Li is still just taking so much damage. Chanimal now rotting down as both teams hit the 50% HP mark. Shamans are running low on mana. Chun-Li trying to lead the charge here with the wind shear on WizK. They don't have the burst damage followed up. Upsurge has Ascendance though. That's basically a reset for his team. A couple healing waves. His whole team's going to go back to full. Cubsy does not have that luxury. Chanimal instead needs to kite away. Chun-Li, I can imagine, needs to evacuate with a heroic leap here shortly. The next kidney shot could be devastating. That Vendetta is ready and waiting, and Cubsy does not have a trinket for it.
Yeah, this is the moment. Peekaboo's going to be looking for that kidney shot on someone to connect that Vendetta, like you said. Chun-Li doesn't have anything for it. Cubsy trying to run away, but WizK able to get a lot of damage off on him. Everyone hovering around 50% HP. WizK getting on a little bit of pressure. There's a kidney shot over onto Chanimals right now. Looks like Vendetta's going to be committed onto him. Silence onto Cubsy. Chanimals ports away on top of his gateway, so he can't get away, but it's rotting down. WizK might be able to take him down. Hellstone's going to be committed as well by Chanimal, so he doesn't really have anything left. In the meantime, Chun-Li's rotting down, and Peekaboo's chasing down Cubsy, who's still just trying to create space, looking like he wants to get back to Chanimal's gateway.
All right, Chun-Li's actually making a swap to Upsurge, but now he gets rooted behind the pillar. Cubsy in the meantime getting swapped by Peekaboo. Peekaboo just destroying Cubsy in the one-on-one behind the pillar.
Goodness.
The move are going to advance to the finals, only dropping one game against the Super Frogs.
If Peekaboo didn't, so yesterday you asked me how big a pyramid for a whale needed to be. You've been explaining your own puns. Zico, we'll let Supa explain his puns. Can you explain the plays?
Yeah, I mean, this is just another one of...
One match is going to determine who they have to face off against in the grand final. It's Super Frogs versus Super Rejects. We've gotten to see both of these teams quite a bit. What do we actually expect this matchup to look